Some afternoons look exactly like every other afternoon. Sunlight streams through the high-rise's glass facade, reflecting off the polished stone floor. Employees hurry past one another, coffee in hand, headphones on, minds occupied with meetings that haven't ended yet. No one knows that, in just a few minutes, a human life will be decided by a signal that makes no sound. She walks through the building lobby as if she controls the entire world. A perfectly tailored suit, heels striking a steady rhythm against the marble. The familiar gaze of someone accustomed to making decisions for thousands of others. Evelyn Carter, 42 years old, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar real estate technology conglomerate. The woman the media calls a symbol of modern power. But today, Evelyn is not walking of her own will. Half a step behind her is a man in a black suit. No one pays attention. No one suspects a thing. They look like two colleagues discussing work. Only Evelyn knows beneath. The man's jacket is something cold and hard pressed firmly against her back. A gun. No screaming, no panic, no cinematic drama. Only a low voice, calm to the point of being terrifying. You will smile, and you will do exactly what I say. Evelyn immediately understands the rules of the game. Don't run, don't reach out, don't look around for help. Because in a building filled with cameras, security, and rules, the most dangerous thing is the confidence of someone who believes no one would dare intervene. The man's name is Daniel Cross, a fixer, someone who resolves corporate takeovers by any means necessary, including those no one wants to talk about. He doesn't need to threaten her much. He knows Evelyn will cooperate because he chose the right place. A building where everyone believes they are safe. A place where no one dares to create chaos. And Evelyn cannot scream inside the very empire she built. She passes the reception desk, walks past small groups of employees, speaking in low voices. A janitor bent over, mopping the floor near the elevator. No one looks at her for more than a second. Until that moment. In the reflection on the polished stone floor, Evelyn catches the janitor's eye. Not a direct stare, just a very slight glance, but enough to know he is watching. She doesn't stop walking, doesn't turn her head. Her breathing remains steady, but her hand, relaxed at her side, begins to move. Her fingers form shapes quickly, precisely. No extra motion, no mistake. A sentence, spoken without sound. Help me. He has a gun. The janitor freezes. The mop stops mid-air. Water drips onto the floor, forming a thin line that spreads, as if time itself has been stretched. His name is Marcus Reed, 38 years old, a single father, day shift janitor. In 3 years of working here, no one has remembered his name. No one has asked where he came from. No one knows that every morning he takes his daughter to a school for deaf students before reporting for his shift. But Marcus recognizes it immediately. Not because he is brilliant, but because his daughter cannot hear. He learned sign language not to impress anyone, not for his job, but because on certain nights his daughter needs to say, "I'm scared." And there is no other way to replace a voice except with hands. Marcus does not look up at Evelyn. He does not look at the man behind her. He understands the final message in that sequence of signs. Don't look up. And in that moment, inside a building worth billions of dollars, true power quietly shifts into the hands of someone no one ever noticed. The story begins here. From the outside, this building is a symbol of absolute safety. Bulletproof glass, keycard access control systems, cameras covering every hallway, every elevator corner. Professionally trained security guards, earpieces firmly in place, eyes constantly scanning. A place where people believe bad things only happen to others. Evelyn Carter used to believe that too. She spent nearly 2 decades building everything inside this building, every procedure, every protocol, every level of management. She believed in the system, believed that if everything operated according to standard, people would be protected. And that very belief became a fatal vulnerability. Daniel Cross understands this perfectly. He doesn't choose loud places. He doesn't choose dark corners. He doesn't choose empty lots or deserted alleys. He chooses places where no one dares to cause trouble. He knows a CEO will not scream in the middle of a corporate lobby. He knows no one would dare pull a gun in a building full of people. And he knows that Evelyn Carter will choose to preserve her image before choosing to protect her life. "You're in the safest place in the city," Daniel says quietly, as if offering reassurance. "And it's also the place where you can do nothing." Evelyn keeps walking, feeling each step as if it no longer belongs to her. She sees familiar employees, people who have sat in meetings with her hundreds of times, people who once called her an inspirational leader. But no one sees the gun. No one hears the threat. In this world, danger no longer takes a violent form. It wears a suit. It speaks softly. It smiles. Daniel guides Evelyn along a route with fewer cameras. Not because the cameras don't work, but because cameras only record. They don't save lives. He knows exactly which angles have security and which only offer the illusion of safety. "We just need to sign a few pages," Daniel says. "You walk out with your reputation intact. I walk out with what I need." Everyone satisfied. Evelyn doesn't respond. She knows he doesn't need an answer. Inside the leather briefcase Daniel carries is a prepared contract, forged signatures, clauses that activate immediately, a flawless transfer of control. Not a robbery, but a silent takeover. And when a system is designed to prevent chaos, it also unintentionally prevents rescue. At another corner of the lobby, Marcus Reed continues mopping the floor. From his position, he can see everything through reflections: the shoes of influential people, the posture of security guards, the distance between Evelyn and the man behind her. Marcus doesn't need to look directly. He learned long ago how to observe the world differently. When you have a child who cannot hear, you learn to read lips, read shoulders, read the most minor shifts in movement. You learn that the world is always speaking, just not through sound. Marcus recognizes something is wrong immediately, not because of the gun, but because of the distance. A half step of distance, the distance of control. He sees how Evelyn keeps her shoulders straight, but her hands tremble slightly. Sees her steps remain steady, but just a bit slower than usual. Sees tension buried very deep. Marcus understands that the most dangerous thing right now, it's not Daniel, but the blind trust of everyone around them that nothing is happening. He knows he's just a janitor. He knows that if he makes a mistake, he could lose his job, or worse. But he also knows something else. If he turns away, no one else will act. In a building where everything has hierarchy, only those who are not allowed to make decisions, we are willing to make the hardest ones. Marcus places the mop against the wall, slows his movements. He does nothing hastily, no heroic gestures. Just an ordinary man preparing to do the right thing. And somewhere ahead, Evelyn Carter keeps walking, unaware that in the silence, a counterattack has already begun to take shape. Daniel Cross is not in a hurry. He has never been in a hurry in any deal. Calmness is his most dangerous weapon. As the two turn away from the main lobby and step into the corridor leading to the executive offices, Daniel tilts his head slightly, observing Evelyn's breathing. He notices a very subtle change, a somewhat slower rhythm, a deep breath held back. "You're doing very well," he says, his voice low and even, as if praising an obedient employee. "Not everyone can stay this calm." Evelyn does not respond. She knows that any words right now would be unnecessary. Inside, her mind is racing faster than any emergency meeting she has ever run. She cycles through every possibility. Security, cameras, alarm buttons, all useless. Not because the system is weak, but because the system was built to prevent chaos, not to confront silent coercion. Daniel knows this. He leads her past a row of frosted glass doors. Behind them are conference rooms where million-dollar decisions are made every day. Inside, people argue, debate, and fight for control using laws and numbers. But here, power rests in a tiny movement of a finger inside a jacket pocket. "In this briefcase," Daniel continues, his tone so light it almost sounds friendly, "is a contract. You're used to things like this." Evelyn knows. She has signed hundreds of contracts over the years, but never under coercion. "It's just a few pages," Daniel says. "But once you sign, everything you believe you own will no longer be yours." He doesn't need to explain further. Evelyn understands perfectly. A hostile takeover concealed beneath a flawless legal facade. Shares transferred. Executive authority neutralized. Reputation preserved. As a consolation prize. "You'll leave this place as a CEO who voluntarily resigned," Daniel says, his voice a shade colder. "No one will suspect anything. No one will ask questions." A chill runs down Evelyn's spine. Not because of the gun, but because of the ruthless precision of the plan. He didn't come to steal her power. He came to erase every trace that she ever had it. Behind them, in the lobby, Marcus Reed has stopped mopping the floor. Not completely, just more slowly. He remains bent over, still doing precisely what a janitor is supposed to do, but in his mind, small details are coming together like pieces of a dangerous puzzle. He sees Daniel and Evelyn disappear around the corner of the corridor. He sees the direction of movement, not random, but deliberate. He sees that security is not in place. Marcus understands what that means. This man is not afraid of the system. He calculated in advance that the system would not react. Marcus remembers the evenings he sat beside Lily's bed, signing little stories with his hands until she fell asleep. He remembers the helplessness of not being able to shout for a doctor the first time she had a high fever, only able to gesture, to wait, to trust that someone would notice. That same feeling is returning. Evelyn is being led into a world where no one can hear her. Marcus knows he cannot rush forward, cannot call out to anyone, cannot shatter the peaceful surface of this building. But he also knows one thing. People like Daniel Cross believe they control everything because they think people like Marcus will remain silent forever. He pushes the mop cart aside and parks it against the wall as if preparing to move to another area. A small action, unremarkable, no one pays attention. But that is the moment Marcus makes his decision. Not a heroic decision, no grand declaration, just a silent promise to himself. I will not look away. Up ahead, Evelyn Carter is about to step into the room where she will be forced to sign not just a contract, but her own fate. And behind her, a man the entire building has never truly seen is beginning to act. Marcus Reed is used to being unnoticed. 3 years working in this building, he walks through the gleaming hallways every day, pushing his utility cart, mopping floors, changing light bulbs, dealing with the things people only notice when they stop working. He knows precisely when the lobby is most crowded, when the elevators tend to malfunction, and which security guards usually switch shifts earlier than scheduled. But no one ever asks him about any of that, because he is a janitor. And in a world where power is measured by job titles, people like Marcus are often treated like the floor itself, noticed only when there's a stain. His life is much the same, simple, quiet, unassuming. Every morning before his shift begins, Marcus takes his daughter to a school for deaf students with hearing impairments in Brooklyn. Lily, 8 years old, with her curly hair always escaping its braid, bright and curious eyes. She cannot hear the traffic outside, the school bell, or him calling her name when she's facing away. So Marcus learns another way to connect. He learns to touch her wrist to get her attention lightly, learns to signal with his eyes instead of reminders, learns to use his hands to say the things that matter most. Are you okay? Dad is here. Don't be afraid. That language has no sound, but it carries all the safety a child needs. Marcus didn't learn sign language to be special. He learned it because otherwise his daughter would grow up in a world where no one could hear her. That is why, when Evelyn Carter signals to him, Marcus understands immediately. Not every word, but the fear behind them. The man behind her is not a difficult guest, not a legal partner. That is the posture of someone in control. Marcus has seen that posture before. Years ago, he worked in private security, risk assessment, threat analysis, jobs that required you to see what others overlooked. He was good at it. Then Lily was born. Then an accident took her mother away. Marcus left the profession. He needed a job that didn't put him in danger, a job that got him home on time, a job that allowed him to always be present in his daughter's life. And so he became invisible. But what he learned never disappeared. In that moment, as Evelyn keeps walking, Marcus understands she cannot save herself. And if he acts the wrong way, everything could end in an instant. There is no room for mistakes, no room for heroes. Only patience. Marcus does not look up, does not chase after them, does not call security. He keeps mopping the floor. But every step, every movement has a purpose. He slows his utility cart, positions it where it could block the passage if necessary. He tracks the direction of the two figures through reflections on the glass surfaces. He memorizes the distance between them and the hall's intersections. Everything still looks normal. But beneath that normalcy, a plan is taking shape. Marcus knows what he is doing, not because he is braver than others, but because he cannot accept turning away. He thinks of Lily, of evenings when she sits on the living room floor, hands signing stories about her day at school, of nights when she is frightened, searching for him by reaching into the air. Marcus made himself a promise long ago. His daughter would never have to live in a world where no one would see her. And today, he will not let another person fall into that same silence. Evelyn Carter does not know that behind her, an ordinary man is preparing to do something extraordinary. Not for money, not for fame, but because he understands that sometimes the language of survival does not need a voice. And inside a building where everything is designed to prevent chaos, that very silence is becoming the most potent weapon of all. There are moments in life that don't last long. No background music, no warning, just a heartbeat slipping out of rhythm. And you have to choose. Marcus Reed knows he is standing in front of such a moment. Evelyn Carter and the man behind her have turned deeper into the executive corridor. The frosted glass walls gradually obscure them. Here, the lobby becomes strangely quiet, a silence designed to reassure, to make people believe that everything is proceeding in perfect order. Marcus watches them through the last reflection on the polished stone floor. Then the image disappears. In his mind, every possibility opens at once. If he calls security right now, the man might fire the gun. If he runs after them, she will become a human shield. If he stays still, no one else will do anything. The cold truth is this: large systems often react too slowly to silent threats. Marcus takes a deep breath. He sets the mop down, adjusts his gloves. Small, familiar movements, as if he is preparing for an ordinary task. But inside, he is weighing every second. He remembers the early days after his wife died, evenings when the apartment was terrifyingly quiet. Lily was sitting on the sofa looking at him with an expression of waiting, not demanding anything, just hoping he would be there. Marcus had promised that he would always come home, promised that he would never put himself in dangerous situations again. That promise feels heavy as stone in his chest right now. But there is another promise, one he has never spoken aloud, that he would not let fear turn him into someone who looks away. Marcus scans the lobby. People keep moving. Footsteps echo steadily. No one notices anything out of place. And precisely because of that, this is the most dangerous moment. He looks toward the elevators. Distance, camera blind spots, security patrol rhythms, details he once lived by, now return as instinct. Marcus doesn't need to be a hero. He needs to buy time. He lifts the wet floor sign and places it slightly off-center in the path leading toward the executive corridor. A simple action, logical. No one questions it. Then he pushes his utility cart toward a nearby maintenance room. Not rushed, not frantic, because haste is what gets people killed. In his mind, each step is arranged like a sequence of silent signals. Delay, redirect, silent alert. He knows the internal security number, knows how to speak without causing panic. Marcus raises the phone. 1 ring, 2. "Maintenance," he says, his voice so steady it surprises even him. "I need you to monitor the executive corridor immediately. The CEO is in danger." A brief pause, then the line on the other end turns serious. Marcus says nothing more. There is no need to persuade. He knows he has planted the seed in the right place. He sets the phone down, feeling cold sweat at the back of his neck. Not because he is afraid, but because he knows that from this moment on, there is no turning back. If this plan fails, he will be the first to pay the price. Marcus returns to the lobby, continuing to push his utility cart as if nothing had happened. He bends down and adjusts an electrical outlet, creating just enough noise to seem normal, just enough to draw attention if someone is listening. In his mind, one sentence repeats over and over. Just one more minute. Just one more minute. Somewhere ahead, Evelyn Carter is moving closer to the room where she will be forced to sign. She does not know that behind her, a man is trading his own safety to give her more time. No one applauds. No one witnesses it. But sometimes, the bravest thing is not a grand act. It is the decision not to look away when you easily could. And Marcus Reed has chosen to look straight ahead. There is no countdown clock appearing on the wall, no alarm sound. But Marcus Reed knows. Time is moving faster than ever. After the brief call with the security department, he does not allow himself to stop. Stopping would mean thinking, and thinking too long in moments like this can kill composure. Marcus keeps moving. He pushes his utility cart along the corridor leading toward the executive elevators, maintaining a steady pace, not too fast to draw attention, not too slow to appear suspicious. In this world, everything is measured by what is normal. Step even slightly outside that boundary, and you will be noticed. And being noticed right now is the most dangerous thing of all. Ahead, Daniel Cross is guiding Evelyn Carter toward the private elevator reserved for executives. He does not speak much. His silence is not a lack of confidence, but the mark of someone who believes everything is already under control. Evelyn walks beside him, her hands relaxed, her face still, holding its familiar composure. But inside, every passing second is a trial. She has no idea what Marcus is doing, no idea whether her silent signal earlier was understood correctly. She knows only one thing. If there is no miracle, she will step into that room alone. Marcus stops in front of the elevator control panel. He bends down, pretending to inspect a tiny gap along the edge of the panel. His hands move precisely, with no wasted motion. Just a familiar task he had performed hundreds of times before. The elevator is not broken. It is simply slowed down. A temporary maintenance mode is activated, not severe enough to trigger an alarm, but enough to force anyone using this elevator to wait or change direction. A small detail, but in a race against time, small details can change everything. Marcus straightens up and pushes the cart aside as if he has just finished his work. He does not look back, does not observe directly. He learned that from Lily. When you cannot hear, you do. Not stare, you feel. And Marcus feels the change in the air. Daniel stops in front of the elevator. 1 beat, 2. He frowns. Evelyn stands beside him, her heart pounding so hard she fears it might show on her face. But she says nothing, does not ask, does not urge him on. "Is there a problem?" Daniel asks. His voice remains calm, but his eyes are no longer the same. "Sometimes the system needs to be resynchronized," Evelyn replies, her tone light and professional. "We can use the service stairs." A reasonable suggestion. Too reasonable. But Daniel begins to sense that something is wrong, not because of the elevator, but because this building is too quiet. Places that should have people are empty. Familiar sounds have disappeared. From his position, Marcus watches through the reflection on the metal surface of his utility cart. He sees Daniel tighten his grip on the leather briefcase slightly, a tiny gesture, but to Marcus, a clear sign. He is losing patience. Marcus knows he cannot push the situation too far. One wrong move now could send Daniel into panic, and a panicked man with a weapon is the most dangerous thing there is. He steps back half a pace, pretending to adjust the wet floor warning sign, creating another small obstacle in the corridor. Something entirely reasonable for a janitor doing his job. Somewhere below, the security system has begun to move. Cameras are being refocused, exits are being monitored, but everything is still happening in silence. Marcus does not know that. He only knows he needs to keep everything looking normal. Daniel finally decides. "The service stairs," he says. "Now." Evelyn nods. She turns in the direction he indicates, and as they pass Marcus, very close, just a few steps away, she catches a fleeting glimpse of him in the faint reflection on the glass. Marcus does not look at her, but his hand tightens slightly. He understands. The race is not over yet. Time is still working against them, and everything. It is moving dangerously close to the point of no return. The service stairwell closes behind them with a dry click. No decorative lighting, no thick carpet, just gray concrete, cold metal railings, and steep steps. Daniel Cross gestures for Evelyn to go first, a courtesy so calm it's unsettling. He doesn't need to rush her. His control now isn't in the gun, but in the certainty that Evelyn understands the consequences of resisting. Evelyn steps onto the first stair. Her heel strikes the concrete, sharp and clear. Each step is a heartbeat. Each heartbeat is a question without an answer. She reminds herself to slow down, to stay even, to keep her face the way it looks when she walks into an important meeting, because any sign of panic could make Daniel lose patience, and impatience is something she cannot allow. Below, in the lobby, Marcus Reed stands still a moment longer than usual. He does not follow them into the stairwell, does not trail them closely, does not try to look after them. He knows precisely where his boundary is. If he gets too close, Daniel will notice. If he disappears entirely, everything will slip out of control. Marcus chooses the middle ground, the most dangerous place, but the only one where he can still do something. He glances at the wall clock. The second hand moves painfully slowly. Somewhere, the security system is beginning to close in, but Marcus doesn't know how fast they are moving. He only knows that Evelyn is getting closer to the room where everything could end in silence. Daniel and Evelyn reach the executive level. A metal door opens onto a narrower corridor, cold, white lights shining straight down onto the floor. At the end of the hallway is a small conference room, where Daniel has prepared everything. A table, a chair, a contract resting neatly inside a leather briefcase. Daniel opens the door and steps aside. "Please," he says calmly, "we'll finish this very quickly." Evelyn walks into the room. The door closes behind her. In that moment, the outside world feels completely cut off. No grand lobby, no employees, no chance anyone will notice anything wrong. Only her and a man who knows exactly what he's doing. Daniel places the briefcase on the table and opens it. The pages are neatly arranged, signature lines waiting. He pulls out a chair. "You can read it if you want," he says, "but the terms won't change." Evelyn sits down. She takes the contract and turns the first page, then the second, then the third. Not because she needs to read it, but because every second that passes is another second she's still alive. Daniel leans against the table, one hand in his jacket pocket. He doesn't stare. He doesn't need to. His presence alone fills the room. "You've built an impressive empire," he says, almost admiringly. "But everything has a weakness, especially things built on the belief that the system will protect you." Evelyn turns to the next page. Her hand trembles slightly, but her voice does not. "There are 12 clauses," she says. "This takes time." Daniel smiles faintly. "You have time," he replies, "but not much." Outside the room, Marcus Reed is moved closer to the corridor leading to the conference room. He doesn't block the way, doesn't make noise. He is present. He angles his utility cart to the side as if preparing to check an electrical outlet. He crouches down, removes the outlet cover, exposing the wires inside. From the camera's perspective, everything looks perfectly normal. But for Marcus, this is the point he has chosen. He hears the low voice of security through the earpiece hidden beneath his clothing. "They've entered the room." Marcus doesn't respond. He only gives a very slight nod. He knows the most critical moment is coming. Inside the conference room, Evelyn has reached the final page. Daniel steps closer and pulls a pen from his pocket. He places it in front of her. "It's time," he says. "Just sign." Evelyn picks up the pen. In that moment, she doesn't look at Daniel. She looks down at the tabletop, and beneath the edge of the table where Daniel cannot see, her fingers begin to move. One final signal. Short, clear, impossible to mistake. Out in the hallway, Marcus Reed looks through the frosted glass panel of the conference room door. He sees it, and he understands. Time is no longer on their side, but there is still one last chance. The conference room sinks into a silence so heavy it feels as though breathing can be heard. Daniel Cross stands opposite Evelyn Carter, one hand tucked into his jacket pocket, the other held in a posture of feigned ease. He believes he has already won. He always believes that at this stage of every deal, when the prey is seated, when the papers are laid out, when there is only one choice left. Evelyn holds the pen. The cold metal presses against her fingertips, sending a shiver through her. Not from fear, but from the realization that if she signs, everything ends. No gunshot, no police, no hero. Just a signature, and a life erased from the very empire she created. Daniel leans forward slightly, close enough to lower his voice to a whisper. "You're doing the right thing," he says. "No one gets hurt. No one has to die." Evelyn looks up at him. For the first time since being restrained, she meets Daniel Cross's eyes directly. "You're wrong," she says softly. "There are things that don't die, but are still killed." Daniel frowns. He doesn't like vague statements. "We don't have time for philosophy," he replies. "Sign it." Evelyn lowers her gaze, placing the pen tip onto the signature line. But she doesn't write. Beneath the table, her fingers move, fast, precise, decisive. Help. Now. Very close. Out in the hallway, Marcus Reed sees the signal through the frosted glass. He straightens up. All hesitation disappears. Marcus lifts the metal tray from his utility cart and drops it onto the floor. The sound explodes through the executive level, shredding the silence. Metal slams against stone, rippling down the corridor like a jolt to everyone's nerves. Daniel startles and whips around toward the door. "What was that?" he shouts. Marcus bends down to pick up the tray, his voice steady and low. "Sorry, sir. Maintenance mistake." 5 seconds. Just 5 seconds. But those 5 seconds are enough for the door at the end of the corridor to open. No sirens, no shouted commands, only synchronized footsteps, light, controlled, certain. Evelyn sees them first. She doesn't move, doesn't turn her head, doesn't react until, through the small glass panel in the door, she sees Marcus standing there. He says nothing. He only raises his hand. Down. Not formal sign language, but a private signal, one understood only by those who need it to survive. The language of a father speaking to his daughter. Evelyn releases the pen. She slides off the chair and dives beneath the table at the exact moment Daniel pulls his hand from his jacket pocket. "Don't move!" a voice calls out from the hallway. Daniel spins around, the gun now visible in his hand, but everything has already slipped beyond his control. The conference room door bursts open. 2 officers appear, weapons raised, eyes locked in total focus. Daniel turns, trying to identify the most significant threat, but too many things are happening at once. And then, the lights go out. 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds of complete darkness. For Daniel Cross, it is chaos. For security reasons, they have been trained throughout their careers. When the lights come back on, Daniel is face down on the floor. The gun has been kicked away. His wrists are locked tightly behind his back. He screams, curses, and threatens lawyers and powerful names. No one listens. Evelyn remains beneath the table, arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Marcus steps into the room. He doesn't look at Daniel, doesn't look at the officers. He looks at Evelyn, and he signs, very slowly, very clearly. Safe now. It's over. Evelyn nods. She doesn't cry, not yet. Some emotions need time to arrive. Daniel Cross is dragged out of the conference room, his shoes scraping against the stone floor. A man who once believed he controlled everything, now left with nothing but helpless rage. The room returns to silence. Evelyn sits up and takes a deep breath. She looks around. The table, the unsigned contract, the pen still lying there. Then she looks at Marcus, the man the entire system had never seen. In that moment, Evelyn Carter understands something she had never realized throughout her entire career. It wasn't power that saved her. It wasn't the system. It was a human being who chose not to look away. And from that moment on, everything truly changed. The conference room feels strangely empty after Daniel Cross is led away. There are no hurried footsteps anymore, no commanding voices. Only the faint scent of cold metal lingered in the air, and white lights shone down on a table where a signature nearly changed everything. Evelyn Carter remains seated for a few seconds longer than necessary. She stares into the space in front of her where the contract is still open. The legal language, sharp, precise, and flawless, lies there like a reminder that this trap was not built in a single afternoon. It was the result of patience, of overlooked gaps, of the belief that the system would protect the person at the top. She believed that. The officers exchange brief words, their voices low and professional. Procedures unfold quickly and precisely, as if they have rehearsed this moment for a long time. Cameras are reviewed, evidence is sealed, the first questions are logged. Evelyn answers each one, her voice so steady that even she is surprised. Only when the door closes behind them does she realize her hands are trembling, not from fear, but from the realization that she had come terrifyingly close to a point of no return. She stands and steps into the hallway. There, Marcus Reed is still standing beside his utility cart, both hands resting on the handle as if it is the only anchor he has in this moment. He doesn't try to step closer, doesn't seek her gaze. He is used to standing at the edge of every story. Evelyn stops in front of him. For a few seconds, neither of them speaks. Then she says, very slowly, "What's your name?" Marcus looks up, slightly surprised. Marcus Reed." Evelyn nods as if committing to memory the most crucial detail she had never paid attention to before. "Thank you," she says. Just 3 words, but not light at all. Marcus shakes his head. It was just timing. Evelyn knows he isn't telling the truth. No one accidentally does what he just did. The investigation begins that very night. Security footage is reviewed from the parking garage, hallways, and elevators. Every detail is pieced together. The picture gradually emerges, not just of a single coercer, but of an entire network quietly operating within the organization. When the name of a vice president appears on the list of suspects, Evelyn is less surprised than she expects herself to be. Perhaps deep down she has long sensed that not all danger comes from outside. The next morning, as sunlight pours through the glass walls of her office, Evelyn sits alone for a long time. No meetings, no assistant, no urgent emails. Just her and her thoughts. She thinks about all the years spent building power, building distance, believing that the higher you climb, the safer you become. And then she thinks about Marcus, a man she had passed hundreds of times without ever knowing his name, a man whose system was never designed to listen to, yet the one who saw most clearly. She comes to a difficult realization. Her power almost killed her, not because she was weak, but because she had drifted too far from people. That afternoon, Evelyn asks to see Marcus in the executive office. Marcus enters cautiously, still in his janitor's uniform, faintly scented with cleaning solution. This space was not meant for people like him, at least not before. Evelyn stands as he enters. She does not do it out of courtesy, she does it out of awareness. "You saved my life," she says plainly. "And I didn't even know your name until yesterday." Marcus doesn't know how to respond. He has never done anything expecting gratitude. Evelyn continues, her voice lower. "I built a system where the most important people are the least seen." She pauses, takes a deep breath. "That has to change." Marcus looks at her, his expression still calm, but inside he knows. A new chapter is beginning. Not just for Evelyn, but for everyone who has always stood at the edges of great stories. And this time, they will no longer be invisible. 3 months after that fateful afternoon, the main lobby of the building looks no different than before. The same light still pours through the towering glass walls. The same stream of people rushes by, phones in hand. The same footsteps pass one another without time to meet each other's eyes. But one thing has changed. Near the reception desk, not in a prominent spot, but visible enough that anyone entering would pause to read, a small sign has been mounted on the wall. No flowery language, no grand slogans, just a few concise lines. Silent alert procedures. Every employee has the right to be safe. You do not need words to be heard. A board of directors did not design that system, but by someone who was once considered invisible. Marcus Reed. He no longer pushes a mop cart every morning, but he still arrives at the building very early, not to inspect power, but to check on people. He walks the hallways, talking with security guards, receptionists, and technicians. He asks questions no one had ever asked before. If you were in danger, would you know what to do? Do you feel like your voice matters? And for the first time, the people on the front lines are being answered. The Lily Reed Foundation has also begun its work. No glamorous galas, no long speeches, just scholarships, assistive devices, classrooms where parents and children learn to understand each other through their hands. Lily stands at a small ceremony holding her father's hand. She doesn't fully understand everything that is happening, but she understands the way people look at Marcus now, no longer with passing glances. She signs to her father, slowly and carefully. Dad, you're not invisible anymore. Marcus smiles, a tranquil smile. On the top floor of the building, Evelyn Carter stands before the glass wall, looking out over the city. For the first time in years, she is not thinking about next quarter's revenue, not thinking about stock prices, not thinking about power. She thinks about an afternoon when she nearly lost everything, simply because she believed she was in the safest place possible. She remembers her trembling hands beneath the table, remembers the signal for down, remembers Marcus's eyes, no panic, no hesitation. And she understands something that never appeared in any leadership report she had ever read. Power does not save people. Only people save people. Evelyn has changed the way she leads. No more invisible walls, no more distance disguised as professionalism. She begins to listen, not only to those who speak loudly, but also to those who speak in silence. One evening, when the lobby is nearly empty, Evelyn meets Marcus near where everything began. The stone floor still reflects the lights, still reflects people. She doesn't speak. She signs. Thank you. Marcus responds also in sign language. Thank you for seeing. No more words are needed, because there are some things that, once understood, never disappear. You might be watching this story and thinking, I'm just an ordinary person. I don't have power. I can't change anything. But remember this. The person who saved the CEO in this story was not the one with the highest title, but the one who paid attention. The person everyone walked past, but no one truly saw. If this story made you pause for a moment, made you look at someone for 1 second longer, made you rethink how you treat the invisible people around you, then like this video to help spread that message. Share it so this story can reach someone who needs it. Comment your thoughts below. We read every single one. And subscribe to Deep Life Tales, where everyday stories remind us that silence can be a cry for help, and attention can save a life. See you in the following story.